The Galactic Empire had stood as a beacon of peace for over 4,000 years, an era marked by unparalleled stability across the stars. Spanning hundreds of species and countless systems, its foundation rested on mutual cooperation and unshakable diplomacy. Species that once waged bitter wars against each other now coexisted under the watchful governance of the Imperial Council. A fragile but enduring balance had been struck, making war a relic of the past. Among these species were humans, a relatively recent addition to the Empire's vast tapestry. They were not the most powerful nor the most advanced, but they were undeniably resourceful. Humans were known for their adaptability, their knack for survival in hostile environments, and their unique ability to innovate under pressure. Despite their limited military footprint, humans carved a niche for themselves as mediators and problem solvers. They thrived on diplomacy, earning a reputation as a peace-driven people who preferred dialogue over conflict. The Empire's peace, however, was not entirely organic. It was maintained by a delicate hierarchy, where the more advanced species wielded considerable influence, while less developed ones contributed resources or labor. Over time, this structure became ingrained, and the Galactic Empire functioned less as a democracy and more as a carefully orchestrated oligarchy. For humans, this meant navigating a system that viewed them as useful but not essential. Then, an event shattered this tranquility. Reports emerged of a devastating attack on one of the neutral planets, an idyllic world that had long served as a symbol of the Empire's unity. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, and the loss of life was catastrophic. What sent shockwaves through the Empire, however, was the evidence linking the attack to humanity. Surveillance data showed human ships in the vicinity, and intercepted communications suggested involvement from Earth's governing body. The news sent ripples through the Galactic Council, igniting debates that exposed cracks in the Empire's unity. How could a species like humans, known for their peaceful nature, commit such an atrocity? Some council members argued it was a rogue faction, others suggested external manipulation, but a few believed it to be an act of defiance. Speculation ran rampant, but no one was prepared for what came next. In an unprecedented move, Earth's leaders broadcast a message to the entire Empire. The communication was direct, unapologetic, and chillingly resolute. Humanity was declaring war on the Galactic Empire. The declaration stunned the Council and the galaxy at large. Humanity, a species that had never engaged in significant military action, was now positioning itself as an adversary to the most powerful force in the known universe. The message was brief but laden with undertones that hinted at deeper motivations. There was no explanation, no attempt to justify the attack on the neutral planet. Instead, Earth's leaders conveyed a singular message of intent: humanity was prepared to fight, and they would not back down. For a species so long considered a stabilizing force within the Empire, this transformation was almost incomprehensible. The Empire's initial reaction was one of disbelief. Many assumed it was a bluff, a desperate attempt by humanity to achieve some unknown goal. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency session, where representatives from the most powerful species debated the course of action. Some pushed for immediate retaliation, confident that humanity's military capabilities would crumble under the Empire's overwhelming force. Others urged caution, suggesting that humanity's actions might be a response to some hidden injustice. In the midst of this chaos, a few voices warned against underestimating humanity. These were species who had worked closely with humans and knew of their resourcefulness. They reminded the Council that humans were unpredictable, capable of achieving what seemed impossible when pushed into a corner. Yet these warnings were largely drowned out by the dominant voices, who dismissed humanity's declaration as the folly of an inferior species. The Empire's decision was swift. A fleet was dispatched to Earth with the intent of demonstrating the futility of resistance. The Council believed this show of force would quickly bring humanity to its senses, restoring order without the need for extended conflict. As preparations for the fleet's deployment began, many across the galaxy viewed the situation with morbid curiosity. Could humanity, a species known for its diplomacy and ingenuity, truly challenge the Galactic Empire? What the Empire failed to grasp was the depth of humanity's resolve. This was not a decision made lightly, nor was it a gamble without preparation. Humanity had chosen this path with a clarity of purpose that was invisible to the rest of the galaxy. For Earth's leaders, the declaration of war was not an act of defiance. It was the culmination of years of quiet preparation and unspoken grievances that had finally reached their breaking point. As the first fleets moved toward Earth, the galaxy watched in anticipation, convinced that the conflict would be brief and one-sided. But for humanity, this was the beginning of a fight that would redefine its place in the stars. What no one yet understood was that humanity's war was not about conquest or revenge. It was about something far more profound, something that would soon shake the very foundations of the Galactic Empire. The Galactic Council was in uproar. Representatives of hundreds of species gathered in an emergency session, their usual calm shattered by humanity's war declaration. Some called it an act of insanity, others dismissed it as a ploy, while a few wondered if external forces were pulling the strings. For 4 millennia, the Empire had maintained its peace through strength and diplomacy. War had become an abstract concept, something consigned to history. That a species as unassuming as humans would disrupt this equilibrium seemed preposterous. But the declaration was real. Humanity's leaders, in their bold broadcast, made it clear that they were prepared for conflict. Their tone was measured but firm, delivering no justifications, only a promise of unyielding resistance. It was a message meant to shock, and it succeeded. The absence of demands or conditions further unnerved the Council. This wasn't an attempt to negotiate or bargain, it was a clear signal of intent. For a species that had earned a reputation as peacemakers, this transformation was bewildering. The Council's initial reaction was disbelief. Surely, this was a rogue element, not the actions of Earth's central authority. Proposals to investigate deeper motives were drowned out by more urgent voices calling for swift retaliation. The Empire could not afford to appear weak. If humans were allowed to challenge its authority without immediate repercussions, it might embolden others. The Council's ruling species, long accustomed to dominance, were particularly insistent on a display of force. They argued that humanity needed to be reminded of its place in the hierarchy. The military arm of the Empire was mobilized with efficiency born of centuries of disuse. Commanders reviewed humanity's capabilities, dismissing them as negligible. Human colonies and fleets were modest, their technology inferior by imperial standards. The plan was simple: deploy an overwhelming show of strength, deliver a decisive blow, and force Earth's surrender. This strategy had worked countless times in the distant past, and there was no reason to believe it would fail now. Yet, beneath this confidence, a sense of unease lingered among a few. While the Council debated its response, whispers began to circulate in the Empire's intelligence networks. Analysts noted unusual patterns in humanity's behavior over the past decades. Their scientific output, long thought unremarkable, had surged in key areas: artificial intelligence, materials science, and propulsion systems. Human colonies, once disorganized, had become heavily fortified. Resources were being redirected to purposes the Empire couldn't fully track. The puzzle pieces were there, but no one had put them together in time. The first response from humanity came in the form of silence. Even as fleets mobilized and messages were sent demanding explanations, Earth offered no further communication. This silence was unnerving, as it forced the Empire into a reactive position. Without knowing humanity's motives or goals, planning an effective strategy became challenging. The absence of dialogue meant the Empire was left with one option: to escalate. As the Empire's fleets prepared for deployment, humanity broke its silence in a way no one expected. Instead of sending diplomats or delivering ultimatums, they launched a coordinated strike on a key Imperial outpost. The attack was devastating, executed with precision that belied their supposed inferiority. The outpost, thought to be impenetrable, fell within hours. The assault revealed humanity's military advancements, stunning the Empire's commanders. Weapons and tactics previously unseen were deployed with devastating effect, leaving no room for recovery. The Empire's leadership reeled from this unexpected blow. What was meant to be a swift reprimand had turned into a strategic embarrassment. Reports from survivors painted a picture of an enemy that was methodical, disciplined, and disturbingly well prepared. The assumption that humanity's forces would be easily overwhelmed was shattered. This was not the action of a desperate or disorganized species. It was a calculated move that demonstrated both capability and resolve. The broadcast following the attack sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Humanity declared the outpost a warning, not an act of conquest. They had no intention of subjugation or expansion but stated that they would defend themselves against any further aggression. The message was chilling in its clarity. Humanity was ready for war, but the war would be fought on their terms. It was a strategy that caught the Empire off guard, forcing them to reconsider their approach. This escalation left the Galactic Council divided. Hardliners demanded total annihilation, arguing that humanity's defiance could not be tolerated. More cautious voices suggested that the situation might be more complex than it appeared. Some even proposed covert diplomacy to understand humanity's true motives. However, the prevailing sentiment was one of anger and humiliation. The Empire's pride had been wounded, and its leaders sought retribution. As preparations for a larger campaign against humanity intensified, cracks began to appear in the Empire's unity. Smaller species, long resentful of their marginalization, saw an opportunity in humanity's defiance. While they lacked the power to openly support Earth, they quietly rooted for humanity's success, hoping it might shift the galactic balance of power. The Empire's overconfidence had blinded it to the growing discontent among its members, and this war threatened to expose those fractures. Despite these undercurrents, the Empire pressed forward. Humanity, it was believed, could not sustain prolonged conflict. Their colonies were spread thin, and their resources were limited compared to the vast reserves of the Empire. The strategy shifted to attrition, drain humanity's strength through relentless pressure until they were forced to surrender. Yet, even as fleets amassed and battle plans were finalized, a nagging question remained unanswered: what had driven humanity to this point? The Council's analysts combed through every available piece of intelligence, seeking clues to humanity's sudden aggression. They found fragments of information suggesting grievances that stretched back centuries. Trade disputes, territorial encroachments, and cultural clashes had simmered beneath the surface, largely ignored by the Empire. More disturbingly, evidence surfaced of incidents where humanity had been exploited by imperial powers, their concerns dismissed or suppressed. These findings were not made public, but they painted a picture of a species that had endured far more than the Empire had acknowledged. The stage was set for a conflict unlike any the galaxy had seen in millennia. The Empire's fleets were poised to strike, their commanders confident in their superiority. Yet, the echoes of humanity's first strike lingered, a reminder that this war would not be fought on familiar terms. Humanity had shown they were not the same species the Empire had dismissed for so long. They were something new, something dangerous, and they were ready to change the galaxy forever. The Empire's first encounters with humanity's military forces were nothing short of shocking. The expectation had been an easy campaign, with humanity folding quickly under superior numbers and technology. Instead, humanity responded with strategies and tactics that exposed the Empire's overconfidence. Initial skirmishes revealed a military force that had been carefully cultivated, not to mimic the Empire's strength, but to exploit its weaknesses. Human fleets were smaller, but they were faster and more versatile. They operated with a precision that disrupted the Empire's cumbersome formations. Human commanders utilized asymmetric tactics, striking key supply chains, exploiting blind spots, and retreating before the Empire could organize countermeasures. This approach created chaos among Imperial forces, forcing them into prolonged battles they were ill-prepared for. Human ingenuity was evident in their ability to adapt on the fly, turning even seemingly minor engagements into significant victories. Central to this success was technology. The Empire had assumed humanity's capabilities were limited, but this belief was shattered as human weaponry and defenses outperformed expectations. Humanity's ships were equipped with advanced AI systems that allowed them to predict and counter Imperial maneuvers with uncanny accuracy. These AI systems enhanced targeting precision, optimized resource use in real time, and coordinated fleet actions at a scale that Imperial commanders found impossible to match. The technological edge extended beyond AI. Humanity had developed weapons that neutralized the Empire's traditional advantages. Energy disruptors rendered shields ineffective, while targeted EMP strikes disabled key systems on Imperial ships. The Empire's reliance on heavily armored vessels became a liability, as humanity's weapons were designed to bypass conventional defenses entirely. Even more troubling for the Empire, humanity demonstrated an ability to manufacture these advanced tools rapidly, suggesting a robust industrial base that had gone unnoticed. What stood out most was humanity's focus on psychological warfare. They understood that the Empire's strength lay not only in its fleets, but in the unity of its species. Humanity systematically targeted this unity. Propaganda campaigns spread disinformation, causing paranoia among the Empire's ranks. Human hackers infiltrated Imperial communication networks, intercepting and altering orders to sow confusion. Misinformation spread among alien populations, suggesting betrayal by neighboring species, further fracturing alliances within the Empire. Humanity's psychological tactics extended to their direct engagements as well. They deployed decoy fleets to mislead Imperial forces, drawing them into traps where resources were drained and morale shattered. The Empire's commanders found themselves questioning their decisions, unsure of whether they were fighting the real enemy or a carefully orchestrated illusion. These tactics were not only effective but deeply unsettling, as they revealed a level of strategic depth that no one had attributed to humanity before. One of the most surprising aspects of humanity's campaign was their apparent ability to stay one step ahead of the Empire. This suggested a deep understanding of Imperial protocols and weaknesses. Analysts within the Empire speculated that humanity had been preparing for this conflict for decades, if not longer. Evidence began to emerge of a sprawling intelligence network that had quietly gathered information on Imperial operations. It became clear that humanity's success was not a matter of luck but the result of meticulous planning. The impact of these developments rippled through the Empire. Imperial commanders, long accustomed to fighting predictable battles, struggled to adapt to this new kind of warfare. They were used to overwhelming their enemies with sheer force, but humanity refused to engage on those terms. Instead, humans dictated the rules of engagement, forcing the Empire into unfamiliar and uncomfortable situations. This shift in dynamics eroded the Empire's confidence, leading to internal discord among its military leadership. Humanity's rise also highlighted weaknesses within the Empire's governance. As news of their successes spread, dissent grew among the species that had long felt marginalized. Many began to question the Empire's ability to protect its members, and some even saw humanity as a potential ally against a system they had come to resent. These fractures deepened as humanity's campaign revealed the cracks in the Empire's seemingly unassailable structure. What truly terrified the Empire, however, was the realization that humanity's motivations were still unclear. Despite their military prowess and technological advancements, humanity had not shown any interest in conquest. They targeted Imperial forces with precision but avoided collateral damage whenever possible. This restraint baffled Imperial analysts, who were accustomed to wars driven by territorial ambitions or resource disputes. Humanity's true purpose remained a mystery, and the uncertainty only amplified the Empire's fear. Amid these challenges, the Empire attempted to regroup. They brought in their most experienced commanders, introduced new battle strategies, and sought to outpace humanity's innovation. Yet, for every adjustment the Empire made, humanity countered with an even more disruptive approach. It became clear that this was not a conventional war but a conflict that required the Empire to rethink its assumptions entirely. The turning point came when humanity unveiled a technology that fundamentally changed the balance of power. Using advancements in quantum computing and energy manipulation, they created a device capable of temporarily nullifying the Empire's FTL, faster-than-light, travel. This innovation allowed humanity to isolate key sectors of the Empire, disrupting supply chains and preventing reinforcements from reaching critical battlefronts. The Empire, which had always relied on its mobility to maintain control, found itself suddenly vulnerable. This new reality forced the Galactic Council to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humanity was no longer the inferior species they had once dismissed. They had become a force capable of challenging the Empire not just militarily but strategically and ideologically. The Empire's complacency had allowed humanity to prepare in secret, and now the consequences were unavoidable. As humanity's campaign continued, their growing success began to reshape perceptions across the galaxy. Once seen as a minor species, they were now viewed with a mix of fear and respect. Their ability to stand against the Empire inspired both admiration and anxiety, as other species began to wonder what this new balance of power might mean for them. For the first time in 4,000 years, the future of the galaxy seemed uncertain, and humanity was at the center of this transformation. As the conflict escalated, fragments of information began to surface, hinting at the underlying reasons for humanity's declaration of war. What appeared at first to be unprovoked aggression was revealed to have roots in centuries of unresolved grievances. Humanity's silence on their motives wasn't due to a lack of justification. It was a deliberate decision to let their actions speak louder than their words. Yet the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, exposing truths the Empire had long sought to bury. The Galactic Empire's 4,000 years of peace had come at a cost. Beneath the surface of its diplomatic facade lay a system rife with exploitation and suppression. The Empire's stability depended on maintaining a rigid hierarchy where powerful species reaped the benefits of resources and labor provided by weaker ones. Humanity, though valued for their diplomatic skills and adaptability, had endured subtle forms of marginalization since their induction into the Empire. Over the centuries, they were often assigned the least desirable tasks and had limited influence in policymaking. For humans, this imbalance was an irritant, but it was not the spark that ignited their rebellion. The real catalyst lay hidden in the Empire's archives. Decades before the war, a group of human historians uncovered evidence of a systematic effort by the Empire to erase or rewrite key parts of its history. These records revealed incidents of mass exploitation, forced resettlements, and even the destruction of species deemed inconvenient to imperial expansion. Humanity had unwittingly contributed to some of these atrocities, acting as intermediaries in negotiations that turned out to be veiled acts of subjugation. The revelation that they had been complicit in such acts, even unknowingly, sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. Adding to the growing discontent, the Empire had stifled humanity's technological progress for generations. Imperial regulations imposed strict limitations on the development of certain technologies, ostensibly to maintain galactic stability. For humans, this meant being denied access to advanced research and being forced to share the fruits of their innovations under the guise of collaborative progress. The result was a slow but steady resentment that festered within humanity's scientific and industrial communities. But the breaking point came when humanity discovered the Empire's plans for Earth itself. Internal documents revealed that the Galactic Council had deemed Earth's strategic location too valuable to remain under human control. Plans were being drawn to transform Earth into a central hub for Imperial operations, with humanity either displaced or reduced to second-class citizens on their own planet. This realization galvanized human leaders. What had once been simmering discontent turned into a fierce determination to act. Earth's leadership faced a monumental decision. They could appeal to the Council and risk being ignored or dismissed, or they could prepare for a confrontation that would redefine their place in the galaxy. The choice was clear. Humanity began quietly building the foundations for resistance, channeling resources into advanced research, fortifying their colonies, and forging alliances in secret. They knew the war would not be won through brute force. It would require strategy, innovation, and the element of surprise. As humanity's war effort unfolded, their motives became clearer to those within the Empire who dared to look beyond the propaganda. The attack on the neutral planet, initially viewed as an unprovoked act of aggression, was revealed to be a preemptive strike against an Imperial installation hidden beneath the surface. This installation was part of the Council's plans to assert direct control over the region, disguised as a neutral zone. Humanity had targeted it not to provoke war but to disrupt the Empire's encroachment and send a message: they would no longer be passive participants in their own oppression. These revelations sent ripples through the Empire. While the ruling species doubled down on their narrative of humanity as a rogue aggressor, dissent began to grow among the Empire's member species. Some began to question whether humanity's grievances were justified. For centuries, many of these species had accepted their subordinate roles, fearing the consequences of rebellion. Humanity's defiance was a bold reminder that the Empire's power was not as absolute as it appeared. Within the Empire, factions started to form. A few progressive species, sympathetic to humanity's cause, began covertly aiding their efforts. These species shared intelligence, sabotaged imperial operations, and provided resources in secret. While they were too small or fragmented to openly challenge the Empire, their support proved invaluable to humanity's growing campaign. At the same time, hardline factions within the Empire pushed for total war, unwilling to entertain the idea of negotiating with what they saw as an insolent species. Among humanity's leaders, a figure emerged as the face of their resistance. This individual, a brilliant strategist and eloquent speaker, articulated humanity's vision for the galaxy. They emphasized that this war was not about conquest or revenge but about dismantling a broken system and building something better. Their speeches, broadcast across human and alien territories alike, inspired both fear and admiration. To many within the Empire, they were a dangerous revolutionary. To others, they were a symbol of hope. As the Empire struggled to maintain unity, cracks began to appear in its foundation. Humanity's actions had exposed the hypocrisy and fragility of a system that claimed to be a beacon of peace but thrived on inequality. Species that had once been loyal to the Empire started to reconsider their allegiances, wondering if humanity's rebellion might succeed where others had failed. The seeds of rebellion, planted long ago, began to take root in places the Empire least expected. What made humanity's approach so effective was their ability to remain unpredictable. They revealed just enough of their motives to unsettle the Empire but withheld enough to keep their true objectives ambiguous. This strategy kept the Galactic Council on edge, forcing them to allocate resources to counter threats that might not even exist. Meanwhile, humanity continued to outmaneuver the Empire, using their understanding of imperial tactics to stay one step ahead. The deeper truth of the war was not about humanity seeking dominance, but about their desire to redefine their role in the galaxy. They sought a system where no species could impose its will on another, where collaboration was genuine, and where peace was not maintained through suppression. Their defiance was a challenge to the very principles on which the Empire had been built, and in doing so, they forced the galaxy to confront uncomfortable questions about the cost of its so-called peace. The Empire, despite its vast power, now faced a battle it had never prepared for, a war not of conquest but of ideals. Humanity's uprising was more than a military conflict. It was a call for change that resonated far beyond Earth's borders. Whether the Empire could adapt to this challenge or collapse under the weight of its contradictions remained to be seen. One thing was clear: humanity's war was no longer just their own. It was a reckoning for the entire galaxy. The war reached its crescendo as the Galactic Empire launched a massive campaign to reclaim its dominance. Humanity, though vastly outnumbered, was far from broken. Every engagement revealed the Empire's growing struggle to adapt to an enemy that defied its traditional methods of warfare. For the Empire, this was no longer a conflict about maintaining order. It was a desperate attempt to preserve its own existence. The decisive battle began with an unprecedented deployment of Imperial forces. Entire fleets, bolstered by newly developed technologies, converged on human-controlled sectors. The Empire believed this overwhelming show of force would finally subdue humanity. However, humanity had anticipated this move. Years of preparation had culminated in a strategy that turned the Empire's greatest strength, its sheer size, into a liability. Humanity's forces operated with precision, focusing on crippling supply lines and targeting command vessels to create chaos within the Imperial ranks. As the conflict unfolded, it became clear that the Empire's vastness was its Achilles heel. Coordinating fleets across countless systems proved impossible against an enemy as agile as humanity. Communications were intercepted and disrupted, leaving Imperial commanders isolated and uncertain. Humanity's strategic use of quantum nullifiers, which rendered FTL travel inoperable within targeted areas, further fragmented the Empire's forces. What began as a coordinated assault quickly devolved into scattered skirmishes, each of which humanity exploited to devastating effect. The Empire's leaders, faced with mounting losses, struggled to maintain unity within their ranks. Political factions within the Galactic Council clashed over how to proceed. Hardliners demanded escalation, even suggesting the use of forbidden weapons, while moderates called for negotiations. Meanwhile, dissent among member species grew louder. Humanity's success had emboldened long subjugated populations, and whispers of rebellion began to spread. The Empire's carefully maintained facade of stability was crumbling. Humanity's victory, however, was not merely a result of superior tactics. It was the culmination of their ability to inspire change. Through covert broadcasts and targeted outreach, they revealed the injustices perpetuated by the Empire. They shared evidence of the Council's exploitation, suppression, and disregard for countless species. These revelations, once dismissed as conspiracy, now resonated with a galaxy witnessing the Empire's vulnerabilities firsthand. For many, humanity was no longer an enemy but a symbol of defiance against oppression. The turning point came not on the battlefield but within the Empire itself. Key species, once loyal to the Council, began to withdraw their support. Some defected outright, offering resources and intelligence to humanity. Others declared neutrality, unwilling to continue fighting a war they no longer believed in. The Empire's military machine, already strained, began to collapse under the weight of these defections. Humanity, recognizing the significance of this moment, moved swiftly to consolidate its gains. Earth's leadership seized the opportunity to propose a new vision for the galaxy. They called for the dissolution of the Galactic Empire and the creation of a decentralized alliance based on mutual respect and shared governance. This proposal, while radical, found support among disillusioned species who had suffered under the Empire's rule. Humanity framed this vision not as a bid for power but as a chance to rebuild the galaxy on principles of equality and cooperation. The final days of the war were marked by acts of desperation from the Empire. Isolated fleets launched attacks that achieved little more than prolonging the inevitable. The Council, once confident in its superiority, was reduced to infighting as its members sought to secure their own survival. By the time humanity reached the Empire's core worlds, resistance had largely collapsed. The surrender, when it came, was swift and unceremonious, a stark contrast to the Empire's once grandiose image. With the war over, humanity faced the monumental task of shaping the post-conflict galaxy. They worked to establish the foundations of the new alliance, ensuring that power was distributed equitably among its members. Former imperial territories were granted autonomy, and steps were taken to address the grievances that had fueled centuries of resentment. While the transition was fraught with challenges, humanity's leadership remained steadfast in their commitment to a better future. The Galactic Empire, once thought unassailable, became a cautionary tale. Its collapse was not merely the result of military defeat but the inevitable consequence of systemic injustice. Humanity's uprising had exposed the flaws of a system that prioritized control over collaboration. In doing so, they had not only secured their own freedom but had also redefined the galaxy's understanding of peace and governance. For humanity, the war was a turning point in their history. It was a testament to their resilience, ingenuity, and willingness to fight for their principles. But it was also a reminder of the cost of such a struggle. The sacrifices made during the conflict would be felt for generations. Yet, in the aftermath of the war, there was a sense of hope, a belief that the galaxy, though scarred, could emerge stronger and more united than before.